Welcome everybody to World History Semester 1. In this first video, I'm going to have a presentation for you guys. The video is going to walk you through the first set of notes called Introduction to World History. And I wanted to make a video for this one because it doesn't quite follow the fill-in-the-blank style that some of our other notes will. So I wanted to kind of introduce you to some big concepts and just kind of let you know where we are in this class in relation to where we are in the rest of world history. Okay, we're also going to talk about why study history in the first place. Well, in the big picture, history helps you understand people and societies, because the more you know about the past will help you understand things going on in the present. Also, everything builds off things that happened before it. We're going to talk about the concept of causation in this class and about how the effects of one event will lead and act as the causes of another. Everything kind of builds off each other, and that leads to today in this current classroom and this current year being built upon thousands of years of other things happening before it. People made mistakes, people figured out how to correct those mistakes, and then we learn and hopefully avoid making those mistakes and learn from the problems of the past. History also gives you a lot of information about yourself and your history, your family history, your country's history has a lot. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. I've got a little bit of a cold right now. History provides you with an identity, and it gives you a way to relate to other people and have other people relate to you, for good or for bad. Now, in this class, we're going to start with the Renaissance, but this set of notes is designed to help you catch up in case it's been a while since you've taken a world history course. The first thing that we're going to talk about is early civilizations and early religions. Before we go any further, I want to talk about the theories of creationism versus evolution. In our history course, we're going to be using the theory of evolution, which may go against some world religions, but this is the theory that is currently being taught in our school, and it's based off of the fossil record and quite a bit of other evidence as well. Now, we haven't always been able to write things down. The time that we call prehistory is what we refer to as the time before writing was invented. And we can learn about these things from fossils, from leftover bones and artifacts from the time period. Historians study the past, write about it, and then we can learn about it from them. Now, this picture you may recognize as the Flintstones. The early humans were not necessarily living in houses and things like that. They definitely weren't living with dinosaurs like Dino here. They were more nomads. They moved from place to place and they followed their food. They were hunter-gatherers, so they would travel with the seasons. They would travel following herds of animals that they could hunt, and they were always on the go. One of the first people, so to say, that we know about is Lucy. Lucy is the name given to the person whose skeleton was found in a bog in the United Kingdom. Her skeleton was very well preserved, but it wasn't exactly human. It was something called a hominid. And these were some of the first creatures that would walk upright and use simple tools. We can see an artist rendering of her here holding a stick. Okay, so again, not quite human. The skulls were very different. They were powerful jaws meant for cracking open nuts and chewing up more plants and vegetation than we typically do today. She's one of the first people that we know of. She was most likely a hunter and gatherer, like I said, and as hominids kind of became more intelligent and more evolved, they started using more and more tools. And this is one of the first things that we're going to write down in your notes. On the left here, I've got a list of tools that hominids use. And what I want you to do is, in a second, you're going to pause this video and try and figure out what a tool that you use to do a similar job is. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video, take a look at the items on the left, try to figure out some of the items on the right that people might use today to do that job. So go ahead and hit pause, and I'll be here whenever you're ready. Okay, hopefully you're back. Maybe you thought about how they might have used fire in the past to cook their food. A tool you might have written down was maybe a microwave oven or a stovetop or a barbecue pit or something like that. Okay? If you need help with this, just pause the video, let me know, and I'd be happy to come over and talk to you. Now, the early hominids were mostly living down here in what we call the heart of Africa. And they started to travel across the world. We can track how they traveled by using DNA testing, and we can kind of see how they went different directions, traveling out of Africa, and along these different timelines, they walked up into North America, across the Bering Strait, and then down into South America. It was one of the last places that humans eventually got to. Okay. One of the reasons why they started in Africa was because there was a lot of rivers. Maybe you learn about the river valley civilizations, learning about the Nile River or the Tigris and the Euphrates. And most of these civilizations developed around a river because that was an easy source of drinking water. Drinking water you need at least every 3 days, and probably an easy source of food too, being fish or birds or other aquatic species. Okay. These early hominids and early humans started to get a little bit more advanced with the development of irrigation. They started to have more than they needed, which was called a surplus. And that meant that they had more and more time to invent new things because they weren't always worried about survival. One of the first things that would eventually get developed, thanks to this extra time on your hands, was writing. What you're doing in your notes right now is more advanced than what they had originally, which was called cuneiform. And really only scribes, important people working for kings and queens, knew how to read or write it. And it was mostly used for keeping track of money, keeping track of trade. Okay? Another thing that we started to develop was laws and government. One of the first set of laws was called the Code of Hammurabi. And this concept may be familiar to you, where it's known as an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which means that if someone's neighbor attacks them and stabs their eye out, well, then that person's family gets to stab the eye out of the neighbor who did it in the first place. Pretty archaic compared to what we have today with our much more sophisticated laws and codes and prisons and things like that. But it was important because it was one of the first and it applied to all people. Okay. Now, as we go through the rest of these notes, I want you guys just to jot down some things in your notes. I'm not looking really for anything specific. I'm just kind of doing this as a reminder for you guys, hopefully jogging your memory. So I've left space in your note packet for you to just jot down some things that you either think are interesting or things that you remember from middle school. I'm going to go pretty quick through these because hopefully a lot of this is going to be review from a while back. Okay, I'm going to pause the video here and I will continue in a video called part 2. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.